Hello everyone! Today I'll tell you how my story with MS began and about my first serious symptoms. It all started with a slight discomfort in my right eye. I thought it was just some kind of cold. Naturally, I went to see a doctor, an ophthalmologist. They examined me quickly, said it was probably just a cold, and prescribed me some eye drops to use for 4 or 5 days, after which everything should go away. But a few days later, I remember it was a Friday, I wasn't feeling very well throughout the day. I got into my car and couldn't see the right side mirror. In other words, I had completely lost vision in my right eye. It was, you could say, quite a shock. And the next day I went back to the hospital where they scheduled me for more thorough examinations. I spent several hours undergoing tests and giving samples, and they gave me a preliminary diagnosis of optic neuritis in my right eye. After that diagnosis, they started treatment and gave me injections in my eye. By the way, that's a rather unpleasant procedure. They also administered medications intravenously, intramuscularly, and prescribed a specific course of tablets. I should mention that at that time, and even now, I have braces. In other words, I'm undergoing orthodontic treatment. I had metal braces, and according to all protocols, I needed to have an MRI scan. But in order not to remove the braces, they scheduled a CT scan for me to take a preliminary look. After receiving the CT scan results, a panel of doctors gathered and said that I needed to have only an MRI with contrast. So as not to waste any time, I immediately went to see my orthodontist. He removed my metal braces and I went to get an MRI with contrast. After receiving the results, of course, the news was not very pleasant. There were more than 15 active lesions that absorbed the contrast. And the doctors told me that the likelihood of me having multiple sclerosis was about 99%. But to confirm the diagnosis 100%, since there was also a suspicion of Devick's disease, they sent me for that test as well. A week later, I received a negative result. Accordingly, now I had a definite diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. From this story, I can draw one conclusion. If you have any symptoms, it's better to get a full examination right away. It will save you a lot of time. But I want to note that about 10 years ago, I had very severe numbness in my left leg. If I had undergone diagnostics back then, I would have been diagnosed much earlier. Most likely that was when my condition first appeared. But I kind of didn't pay attention to it since my leg got better on its own after about a week. Share your story in the comments. If you have multiple sclerosis, what was your onset like, or the onset for your relatives or friends? How did it happen? I'm really interested to know. Also subscribe to this channel, give it a like, and of course turn on the notification bell. I will be releasing as many videos on this topic as possible, not just my own story, but also the stories of other people, as well as interesting news about multiple sclerosis. That's all for now. Bye.